Here's how you can combine all the stuff that we've talked about so far into using it on a single image, and also I'm going to introduce you to the leveling feature of the crop. So let's do the crop very first. Grabbing the crop tool, making sure my delete cropped pixels is turned off because I want this to be a non-destructible edit or non-destructive edit. And then I'm going to click and drag these corners until the center of focus, which in this case is the little boy, is on top of one of these intersections. So I'm going to put his head about where that top intersection is and kind of line him up on the rest of it. And that will get this orange bucket down here out of the way since it was such a visually distracting element. And then push enter. Let's straighten out this crooked horizon line. When you have a crooked horizon line, it makes the viewer feel just a little bit off balance, especially if it's only a little bit off. I guess if it were way off so it looked like the camera was deliberately tilted, it would look better, but in this case it's just a little off. To straighten crooked horizon lines, you can use the straighten tool in the crop toolbar, and if you click on it and then click and drag along that line, it will automatically rotate the image within your crop so that that is now a straight line, and you can push enter to finish. Let's throw a levels adjustment layer on top of there, and I'm not going to worry too much about this. I'm going to maybe pull out some of the mid-tones so I can see the shadows along him a little bit better, because he was really, the detail in his clothes was just disappearing, and I notice if I grab my black and bring it in it goes pretty dark. So I'm going to leave my black where it is and keep this overall just mostly bright. And let's see if I can do anything better with curves. So I just threw a curves on there, and I'm going to just grab here in the middle and see what happens. Now remember, your curves are really the same thing as levels, it's just a different way of looking at it. And I can have a little more control here. So I'm really trying to bring up some of the dark shadows in his without flattening out the rest of the image. So that looks pretty good. We'll leave that one be. Next, what I want to do is oh, excuse me, do some dodging and burning to bring more focus to, or more emphasis to, my main focus. Because this is a non-destructive edit, I need to leave my original photo the way it was on the bottom, and I'm going to duplicate it by clicking and dragging it down to the new layer icon. And then when I grab my dodge tool, the shortcut for which is D, or I'm sorry, it's not D, it's O, click on your dodge tool. This has brush-like features, so you can right-click and change the size of that brush or the hardness, and I want to have a fairly good sized brush with a pretty soft edge. And as far as exposure goes, let's put this about 34 and see what happens. So that's a little too strong. It looks like there's a spotlight pointing on him, so I'm going to Command Z to undo and change exposure down a little bit, and make sure your protect tones check mark is on. Pretty much you'll always want that. So this I'm just subtly lightening up and brightening around him a little bit. And then I'll do the opposite, because remember, if we brighten our main focus to create a little bit more contrast, to make even more contrast, we can darken areas that aren't the main focus. So I'm going to hold down my Option key, which will get me the burn function of the dodge tool. And that makes the sky look dirty, so Command Z to undo, maybe even a couple of times. Command Z and Command Option Z will step you back, or you can always come up to your history panel and do it there. Alright, this is going great, and I just noticed what was wrong. In your dodge control bar, you have a selection where you can change it to be affecting either the highlights, the shadows, or the midtones. We really want this to affect the midtones, and I've been affecting the highlights. So I'm going to back up to where I last used my dodge tool, so all that burn stuff goes away, and then try this again by holding down Option and just clicking around. And that's better. That's making it become more dark instead of just graying out, which is what I want. And I'm going to create kind of a fake vignette that's not really strong, but maybe just a little bit. It'll have the effect of kind of darkening the blues in the sky and darkening the sand around the edges. And remember, if it's doing too much every time you click, you can reduce the exposure. So let's take a look at kind of our before and after. So here's the original pre or after we cropped it. There's with some dodge and burn. Yeah, so some pretty good edits. So you'll save this as your working file with as a Photoshop document with layers, and then save a JPEG version that you'll turn in.